Namaste. This is David Hawthorne at astroview.com. Today is the 23rd of May, 2016. The following is the Vedic Astrology chart for Flight 804, dated May 18th, 2016, at 11:09 p.m. in Paris, France. So this is the flight that took off from Paris and disappeared on the way to Egypt. So in the first house we have the 8th sign of the zodiac ascending at 24 degrees 28 minutes of Scorpio. The 8th sign relates to the 8th house. So mystery, accidents, and death-like experiences, transformations, and vulnerability. This is Mars and Saturn in the first house. Mars at 8 degrees 56 minutes, Saturn 20 degrees and 8 minutes. The big issue in this chart is the degrees of the rising sign. 24, 28. There's 30 degrees possible. This rising sign degree is not an arbitrary number. It's very specific to the time of birth. In this case, the time that the plane left Paris. There's a horoscope for every moment of the day. So if you're going to get on an airplane, you might want to take a look at the chart. So this is 24 degrees. Any planet within a 5-degree orb of that is considered to have an impact in the house it occupies and in the houses it aspects. My concern for this chart is with Rahu, the northern node of the moon, and Ketu, the southern node of the moon. Notice how close they are to the rising sign degree. They're only 1 degree from the ascendant degree. This is known as most effective point, using systems approach for interpreting horoscopes, as developed by Professor V.K. Chaudhry. So because Rahu and Ketu are close to the rising sign degree, then they have an impact in the houses they occupy and in the houses they aspect. And Rahu throws an aspect 5 houses away, 7 houses away, and 9 houses away. Ketu has an impact 5 houses, 7 houses, and 9 houses away. Anytime you see any chart where Rahu and Ketu are close to the rising sign degree, you know that person has trouble. So that person or that company or that country or that flight or that wedding vow, or when you launch a space shuttle, there's a horoscope for every moment of the day. So Rahu is afflicting this 10th house, the 5th sign of Leo, which is the field of action and karma. These are mathematical ecliptic points in the zodiac. They cause the eclipse of the sun and the moon every single year since the beginning of time. So if they can bring darkness to the royal luminary planets, the sun and moon, they certainly can bring darkness in our lives. So Rahu is afflicting the house of karma and action. It's afflicting the 2nd house, which is continuation of family life, so it causes discontinuation of family life. It's afflicting the 4th house. One of the significations of the 4th house is transportation, conveyances of all sorts: horses, trains, boats, automobiles, motorcycles, airplanes. And it's afflicting the 6th house of enemies and mental tension and accidents. Ketu is afflicting 5 houses away, which is the 8th house. 8th house is transformations, vulnerability, accidents, and death-like experiences. Ketu can be very explosive. And it's aspecting the 10th house of karma, and it's aspecting the 12th house of foreign lands. So it causes some trouble in a foreign land. And the 12th house is losses, separations, and end of life. Now because Rahu and Ketu are in odd signs, the odd signs are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11, as opposed to the even signs 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Because Rahu and Ketu are in odd signs, then they are afflicting odd signs. So that undermines the strength of the planets ruling those signs. So, Sun ruling this 10th house of career, Mars ruling this 6th house of enemies and disputes, legal action. Jupiter ruling the 2nd house of wealth and status and continuation of family life. Venus ruling the 12th house of foreign lands, losses and expenses. And Saturn ruling the 4th house of transportation. So 5 planets become weak on account of Rahu and Ketu afflicting the 6 houses. This 8th house does not contain a mul trikona sign, so that ruler does not become diminished. But Mercury and Venus are in a house afflicted by Rahu, so Mercury and Venus become utterly weak. And they are in the 6th house, which is a Dustan Bhava, inauspicious house, so they're automatically weak. And Moon is in a Dustan Bhava, the 12th house. And it's a house under the affliction of Ketu. So not a single planet in this chart has any strength, retains any strength. Mars is well placed, but its house Aries is afflicted by Rahu. Saturn is well placed, but its house Aquarius is afflicted by Rahu and Ketu. Sun is well placed, but Leo, ruled by the Sun, is afflicted by Rahu and Ketu. So not a single planet gives protection. Now the Mahadasha ruler, the main period ruler at the time of this flight, is Mars. Mars for Scorpio rising sign is a first-rate functional malefic planet. Can and will cause harm. Its mul trikona sign is Aries, which falls in the 6th house. Whenever you're reading a chart, you looked at the 6th house, the 8th house, and the 12th house. If any of those 3, which are the Dustan Bhavas, inauspicious houses, if any of these houses contain a mul trikona sign, which are 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 11, then that ruler becomes a functional malefic planet for that particular rising sign. All other planets are benefics. So a lot of Scorpio people think, oh, Mars is a great planet for me. It is not. It rules the 6th house. It's a functional malefic planet. And it's in the 8-degree range. And it aspects 4, 7, and 8 houses away. It doesn't bother Ketu, but it does bother Sun, because it's within a 5-degree orbit. If you add 5 degrees to this, you get 915, and this is 856. So technically this Mars afflicts Sun, ruling the 10th house of karma. Now the 8th house does not contain a mul trikona sign, so that ruler does not cause trouble. But the 12th house contains a mul trikona sign. This is Libra, ruled by Venus. So Venus also for Scorpio becomes a functional malefic planet. In fact, it becomes the most malefic planet. If there's a multicone sign in the 8th house, that ruler becomes the most malefic planet. If there's not, then the 12th ruler becomes the most malefic planet. And if there's not, then Ketu becomes the most malefic planet. So Venus is the most malefic planet for Scorpio. If you add 5 degrees to the ascendant, it's 2928. This is 2907. So technically, Venus is also afflicting the 6th house and the 12th house. It actually cannot afflict the 12th house because it rules the 12th house. So it's not bothering that house. But it is a functional malefic planet, ruling the 12th house of foreign lands and losses and end of life, and it's in the house of enemies and conflict and accidents. And fire, see, the 6th house is also fire. I think there was fire on board, or smoke at least. The Antardasha, the current operating planet, was Mercury. Mercury was running from September 2015 to September 2016. So Mercury rules this 11th house and is in the 6th house. So it is in a house that is afflicted by Rahu. And technically, if you add 5 degrees to Mercury, it's 2545, and Rahu is 2524. So it actually directly afflicts Mercury as well. Rahu, unexpected calamity. Ketu is also fire and explosions, aspecting the 8th house of accidents and death-like experiences. So unfortunately, this is an extreme example. And of course, our hearts and prayers go out to the families of those on board. But this is an example that there is a horoscope for every moment of the day. And it's a good idea to elect a time to, if you're considering taking a flight someplace, you might want to see what the options are. And try to get a chart that does not have so much weakness or affliction to it. We always want to keep Rahu and Ketu away from the rising sign degree. That's the most important. When you're creating a muhurta and electing a time to do something, you want to keep Rahu and Ketu away from the rising sign degree above all else. Namaste.